spent them here. For whatever be our watchword, conquer and prevail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, Scotch Plains family all hail. When across the world we wander, this will be our song. Honor, love, and true devotion, all to here belong. For whatever be our watchword, conquer and prevail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, Scotch Plains family all hail.
Okay, we're going to continue the public session. We were just over in recognition for Governor Educator of the Year, and now we're moving into the instructional updates, PTA honors.
Good evening. For most of you, you know who I am, but I'm Suzanne Appizato Bjorklund, and the president of the Scotch Plains Fanwood PTA Council, and I serve as the primary liaison between our schools and PTAs and the administration office. January, a lot of people don't realize it, but January is the annual School Board Recognition Month in New Jersey, a time to raise public awareness of the roles and responsibilities of local boards of education. I want to express gratitude to our board members for their volunteer efforts. New Jersey's local boards of education play an essential role in students' lives. Board members oversee 580 school districts, which in turn operate 2,500 public schools and provide educational services to nearly 1.4 million children. They set the policies for schools and make important decisions affecting curriculum, financing, and staffing. In 2010, the SPF PTA Council initiated the tradition of honoring our Board of Education for their countless hours of dedication to serving our community and contributing significantly to our children's education. Here in Scotch Plains Fanwood, we're fortunate to have a board that acts as advocates for our children, students, collaborates with parents, teachers, and school administrators for the betterment of public education. They strive to provide resources for all students, making a positive impact, and for that, we are truly grateful. On behalf of the PTA Council and SPF PTA local chapters, we extend our thanks for your dedication, and we'd like to present you each with a small token of our appreciation. We have gift cards from our local businesses for each of you. I'll leave them with Robin, and they're all personalized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Okay, thank you so much. You know how much we appreciate all you do, so thank you so much. On to reports. So executive session report, we talked about personnel, HIB, suspension of detention, and we had a legal status update. No additions to the agenda, and I'm going to move over to our superintendent's report, Dr. Mast.
Thank you. So tonight, just thinking about how the district is a microcosm of the country and certainly impacted by world events, I have a statement that I'd like to make. The Scotch Plains family community is home to students, staff, and families of many ethnicities and backgrounds, including families with cultural ties to both Palestine and Israel. First and foremost, I offer my deepest sympathies to the families who lost loved ones on October 7th or have lost loved ones in Gaza since then. I cannot fathom the grief and fear you must be feeling every day, and please know that the district is here for you. This global conflict is complex and has been eliciting strong emotions within our schools and communities. I have spoken with families who are afraid to send their children to our schools, and others who are deeply concerned by a novel at the center of staff professional development session. Others are concerned that we are censoring or banning books. This is not true. However, we are building a pathway to have discussions around any given text on a positive and productive platform. I have listened carefully and want to reiterate that our schools are safe, supportive places for all students to learn and grow. Everyone belongs here in Scotch Plains Fanwood, and we do not tolerate bullying or acts of hate. When emotions are highly charged, every interaction can seem magnified, and every word can be analyzed. This is all understandable. Words are very important. So is the meaning behind them. Our messages of inclusion at Scotch Plains Fanwood are powerful because they reflect our actions. We have a strong history with our community built on the actions we demonstrate, showing compassion, building relationships, and helping anyone who is in need. As we continue to navigate this troubling time, I implore each of you to focus on positive actions, spreading kindness, understanding, and empathy in our classrooms, hallways, and even school board meetings. We may not be able to end the conflict in the Middle East or even change the minds of our neighbors, but we can collectively grieve and show compassion for each other. Once we do that, we can also begin to have an open dialogue. That is where our power lies and where our words can have the most impact. Our school administration and Board of Education are leading this effort. I have met with the ministerium that includes the religious leaders from the community and have had one-on-one conversations with dozens of community members. Our Wellness and Equity Committee of the board also met to begin forming a plan for how to have these conversations in a way that bolsters our commitment to welcoming and embracing all students. I look forward to sharing details at future board meetings. Before closing, I would like to ask Dr. McGarry to read a portion of the district's statement of belief and purpose. The statement was created 2 years ago by staff and administrators as part of the district's annual goals and a larger strategic plan. It feels especially relevant in these times. Dr. McGarry?
We believe that all students have a right to learn in equitable and inclusive classrooms that foster a sense of belonging. Equitable and inclusive classrooms are places where each student's identity is affirmed through the physical environment, interactions and relationships among students and teachers, the curriculum, resources and materials, and methods of instruction. In equitable and inclusive classrooms, ample mirrors and windows are provided for all students so that they can learn about themselves and others, celebrate the ways that diversity contributes to our society, and forge connections based on the universal needs and desires of all human beings. In creating and fostering equitable and inclusive classrooms, we recognize that social, cultural, and historical factors influence the extent to which specific student identities have been made invisible, have been disparaged, or have been denied.
So remember, everyone is welcome here in Scotch Plains Fanwood Public Schools. We'll continue to do everything possible to spread that message and to protect a safe, inclusive environment that together with our community, we demonstrate a shared commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mass. Business Administrator Report, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. I'm going to talk about the referendum and some of the items that we're going to vote on tonight. Talk about them up front, and then I will have to cover them later. First thing is enrollment. Up another 6 this month. We're up 140 students from last year, and that's from stable enrollment from basically 2000s all the way until now. This is the first major jump in 20 years. And with that, we are looking at a referendum. I would encourage everybody to go to our website, and then there's quick links, and then Building a Future Ready SPF. And on that website, it gives updates and a timeline of where we're at in terms of looking at potential plans for a referendum. And on the website, it gives you the results of the survey that we took for the community. And in addition, gives the timeline. So on that timeline, there's a series of bullet points And we're basically between bullet point 2, bullet point 3, which is finalizing the project list and submitting the projects. So I just want to have a couple updates tonight on those projects. So I'll go to the agenda, a couple agenda items. So one of the things we're approving tonight is a major amendment to a long-range facility plan. So it's a requirement by the state that every 5 years, the district undergoes a full analysis of the district to look at potential projects we'll be looking at in the future. And we've undertook that work, and this submission is a full release. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to do every single project all at once, but it does mean that this is sort of a goals. From 5 years ago, we did a significant amount of work from the previous long-range facility plan, but not all of it, of course, because it's a fairly large list. So this sort of sets the baseline for the projects that we're going to select for a potential referendum. Those projects were a summation of community input from the survey, from focus groups with community members, from surveys of students, from meetings with students, meetings with staff at all of the schools, as well as administration and school board members. So a significant undertaking that's taken place over the past few months to come up with a list that's comprehensive. Additionally, we've secured an option agreement to potentially to hold a building, 330 South Ave in Fanwood, to hold the building, to not sell it, until a public vote, a potential vote would be done in September. So what that means is they're just not going to sell it as we do more research. We're still in the middle of finalizing if we did purchase it, what would it look like, how many classrooms and such, and what students would be there. So that work is still ongoing, and we are working through the different options internally. In addition, we are on the agenda is some due diligence work that we're doing for that building, and that's in terms of environmental testing and such. In addition, there's we're doing a traffic study around that building just to make sure whatever work we would do would be work well with the neighbors in that area. In addition, we're approving our architects to start working on paperwork to submit projects to the state. So the way it will work will be before we will submit projects to the state for a potential referendum, and this resolution will the resolution will approve that work to begin the paperwork, because it is a pretty laborious process in terms of compliance and getting all the documents together. So work is ongoing. It's been exciting and keeping us busy, and looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Board President announcement. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law is enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, Scotch Plains Family Board of Education has caused notice to this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices located at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in written notice forwarded to Union County Hawk, the Star Ledger, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, the Borough Clerk of Fanwood, and the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted May 9th, 2023. I'd like to now move over to our student representatives reports, so I will pass it over to you two.
Awesome. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was the Model UN. So our Model UN club went to Hershey Lodge at the beginning of the month, and we did really great. We passed a lot of resolutions, we debated, and I think we got a premier delegation, so that was an awesome award to get. And along with that, our DECA club went to DECA regionals, and SPFBOE did really well, so yeah.
We've also had a very sports-filled month. On January 6th, the PTA hosted the first Super Sports Saturday, which was a really great success, and a lot of the community enjoyed it, and I know the PTA is looking forward to planning more in the future. Our girls basketball team beat Westfield for the second time this season, and we also hosted the first ever girls wrestling quad at the high school, and girls wrestling is becoming a lot more popular at the high school, which is great.
Yeah, and then to finish it up, our Barcelona exchange trip just got back this Sunday. I was a part of it, and I had an amazing experience. I'm so, it's it's blown me away. I really, like, it was just amazing. So we had our exchange program with SAFA, which is a school in Barcelona. There are 20 students from Scotch Plains that went on the trip from the 10th to the 21st, so we spent 11 days there. We went to we were in Barcelona, we toured, we went to Madrid, we had food, we saw, like, the history, museums, we really did everything, and it was an amazing experience. We had so many great opportunities to learn and engage in the culture and the environment, and just to really get a feel of what a different country is like, and it was honestly amazing. I could go on and on about it, but I'm gonna cut it there. But yeah, so I think it was amazing, and that is all we have.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to move to our first public comment section. In accordance with Scotch Plains Public Fan School Bylaws 0164-0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, please state your full name and the town in which you reside. Please note, boards use the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizen concerns, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session or a cross-examination between the public and the individual members. Be aware that not all issues brought before the board will be resolved that evening. Boards may respond to public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issue to the superintendent or his or her designee.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, before we go into public comment, I just wanted to, I see we have a lot of folks here tonight, some frequent flyers and some who are new faces, just so I can kind of elaborate on the statement you just made about the process. When you come up for public comment, again, state your full name and the town which you reside. I'm the timekeeper for the evening, so I will be keeping a timer. If you start to hear an alarm go off, that's not somebody in the audience being rude. That's your 3 minutes are up. Just try to finish up your comments. As those of you who've come here before know, I don't shout you down, but we do try to wrap you up and move you on because so other people can speak. And if you have any questions, you're certainly allowed to pose questions to the board. I will let you know a little secret that I've given for many years, which is I advise my clients not to respond to comments. As it says in the statement from the school boards, the board typically doesn't respond to questions. So if you stand up there and ask a question, you're waiting for an answer, all that's happening is your time is ticking by. The purpose of public comment period for board meetings is so that the board can hear your concerns and your comments, not to engage, as the school board statement says, a cross-examination or a back and forth. So just something to keep in mind. You have 3 minutes. The time is yours while you're up there. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sure. So I will open up the first public comment section. So if you have a public comment, please come to the mic, state your name and the town in which you reside.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Shahadi, and I am from Fanwood. Good evening, everybody, Dr. Mass and members of the school board. Tonight, I want to take some time to address the letter that Dr. Mass sent on January 2nd regarding the postponement of the elective public development session that sought to feature the book Mornings in Jenin. I felt that this book was a way to foster dialogue about the plight of the Palestinian people. As a Palestinian American with children in the district, I was extremely disheartened to see that it had been postponed. Over the past few months since the start of the crisis overseas, Dr. Massey sent many emails highlighting the struggles of the Jewish community, which was sincere and heartfelt and appropriate. I waited patiently for communication that also recognized the suffering of the Palestinian people, but no such communication ever came. Instead, I received an email that a book about Palestine is being postponed, in what seemed like an active effort to silence Palestinian voices. Now, I thought that our community would be open to conversations like this, but it seems like we may be diminishing Palestinian voices, allowing misinformation and hate to prevail. I believe attempts to cancel speech amongst people with different views is what has caused much of the divisiveness that plagues our nation today. I'm concerned about the message that we're sending to our children, Palestinian, Middle Eastern, children of color. What are we saying? We're saying that there's no representation here for you, that your existence is a threat. And it was heartbreakingly clear when I read that message that Palestinians are not worthy of understanding or discussion or humanization. I'm not certain how familiar the board is tonight with what is happening in the Palestinian territories that are located inside of Israel. I don't know if you've seen the bodies of children with missing limbs or the burnt and charred faces from the white phosphorus gas that has been routinely unleashed on a civilian population. Or perhaps maybe you have heard of the mothers who are giving birth without anesthesia, or the babies that have suffocated in the NICU because an airstrike hit the hospital and cut off the oxygen supply. All of this and more is well documented by organizations like the World Health Organization, Doctors Without Borders, the UN, and most recently, the International Court of Justice. So as you can see, Dr. Mast, why you're diminishing of the Palestinian suffering while postponing the personal development is like rubbing salt in the wound. Lastly, I want to make a note that there was some sort of implication that Palestinians had anything to do with the swastika graffiti in the Terrell Middle School. There have been incidences of racist graffiti within the schools in the past, so why are we now talking about it in the same breath as Palestinians? Dr. Mast, I urge you to follow up. Follow up with your communication and your emails and stating and acknowledging the concerns that are raised here tonight. And I want to end with this. In one of your December emails, you expressed something truly profound and uplifting. You said, and I quote, "To our Jewish students, staff, and families, you are valued, loved, and welcomed in our schools. Now, if we can all feel the same love and the same sense of belonging." Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Faisal Shah. I live in Scotch Plains, and I also have a timer, so I'm going to stop at hopefully shorter than 3 minutes. I applaud you for your statement. I appreciate that. And I don't expect the Board of Education or the board to solve any conflicts. My issue is, as a parent, the process is, I think, inherently flawed because the process allows, in this case, but in the future as well, for any other issues, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's any type of discrimination, it allows any member of a community to potentially impede your ability, your staff's ability to learn about other cultures. And that's my concern. My concern, this is not a religious issue for me. This is not a religious issue. We have, like I was very surprised that a religious member of the community had to be consulted about that. I could understand if it's an ethnic type of thing, whether it's Indians or Pakistanis or anything like that. I'm from Kashmir, they're fighting over both of us. But for us specifically, this is a book about Palestinians. It's in the West Bank. It has nothing to do with Gaza. It has nothing to do with October 7th. And so this is just an ethnographic study of these people, and it's fictitious. Now, I understand, I very much understand, if the author made some comments which were, not supportive in general, or maybe derogatory, and I understand that. And so that book, okay, that's fine. But my concern is that this process can and often might be repeated in the future. And that's where I have an issue as a parent. I have no problems with staff development. Whatever you guys want to do, go for it. You're doing a great job. You guys did a great job during COVID. And I'm not here to complain about this. But my concern is that I don't think the process is articulated well enough. And I think there's a lot of, it just allows the squeakiest wheel to get too much noise in this regard. And as you might have seen with what's going on at Rutgers, there's a lot bigger fish to fry where student voices for justice in Palestine literally had to go and fight the university to get back and be put on the thing. This is like the 50s and 60s. So my concern is, I think as a parent and just as somebody who takes care of people from all different cultures, is that I just need a cleaner understanding in the future of so this doesn't happen, because then I don't want people to come and say, well, you know, your book is offensive. Your book talking about racism or talking about the Jim Crow era is offensive. I don't want people to say that, okay, women's suffrage issues is offensive to men. It's just an open Pandora's box where we can't even discuss anything at this point. And staff development. So thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Hina Shah. I am from Scotch Plains. My family and I moved here almost a decade ago, and the reason that we moved here was because of the diversity of the community and the reputation of the school district. We had the thinking that the children would be taught not just great academics, but that they would be confident, learn to develop that confidence in being who they are, being themselves. But the last few months have been tough and disheartening due to how the district chose to handle the current political crisis. I practice as an adult, but also child and adolescent psychiatrist. I can't tell you the number of Arab and Muslim students or children that I see who, not just in this district, there are plenty in this district, my children included, who feel that their voices are being silenced. So how are they being taught to be themselves? How are they being taught that confidence to be critical thinkers? What's happening? They fear, they feel as if their experiences and their grief don't matter. They fear that if they speak, they will meet with the same fate that happened to that young boy in Illinois shortly after this crisis began. So seeing how the situation has been handled, I'm quite disappointed in the district in that not making all the children feel safe or to be their true selves. The postponement of this professional development gives that message that, there's no inclusivity. We do appreciate and we do thank you for your powerful statement that was made this evening, Dr. Mast. I think moving forward, we would like to see that implemented and have more opportunities for there to be inclusivity for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brad Herman. I'm from Scotch Plains. Tonight, I will read you some quotes posted by a teacher from Evergreen Elementary School. And I'll use abbreviations and call the individual teacher. So from V to teacher. So it says, teacher, if someone can't condemn the atrocities Hamas committed on October 7, then they are indeed supporting terrorists. Teacher replies, V, oh, is that the new definition of terrorist supporters? From my perspective, the carpet bombing of Gaza by Israel constitutes genocidal ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. For the survivors struggling to live, Israel's steps are acts of terrorism. V replies, teacher, whatever your opinion of how Israel is conducting the war, my statement above stands. Teacher replies, V, yup, Israel has morphed into a terrorist state, but perhaps from 1948 onward, it always was. In another post, teacher writes, V, I am proudly not Zionist. I do not believe in Israel's right to exist. I believe in the Jewish right to exist and thrive, particularly here in America, where I have a say. I do not believe in their mythical biblical claim to Palestine, no more than I believe I have a right to live in Palestine because my Savior was born there. She forgets her Savior was a Jew born there. In another reply, where the V is saying that it's not acceptable for one of our public officials to act like this, teacher replies, V, then it may be past time to publicly condemn the atrocities Israel has committed against Palestinians. Not doing so all these years is exactly what makes you beyond Islamophobic. You believe in the Israel apartheid state's right to exist, but not the Palestinian right to exist. These are your, and it's a play on the word fascist, racist views, but you have clung to them for so long you can't see your support of the genocide of a people for what it is. Recently, teacher writes, today Rutgers Students for Justice in Palestine reinstated. The question in my mind was, why are they suspended in the first place? And now she goes and blames Dov Ben-Shimon, CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West New Jersey, the largest Jewish philanthropy in New Jersey, took issue, this time with Palestinian students, or in Dov's words, massacre apologists, voicing solidarity and concern for human rights in Gaza. How dare they care so much about the land their parents were chased from? Dov raises dough by sowing, so nice little trope there. Discord wherever he goes. New Jersey students pay the price. Another post where she blamed Dov Ben-Shimon for the canceling of the postponement of the professional development. So CEO of Whippany-based Jewish Federation in Metro West has become very involved in determining what books are permissible for local students and even teachers to read. He lobbied aggressively to protect 20 impressionable SPF teachers from becoming corrupted by reading Mornings in Jenin, FKA, The Scar of David, by Susan Abelhauer for Flex PD. That got my attention. Sorry, Dov, guess what this SPF teacher is reading next? Anyway, we're running out of time here, but suffice it to say, it is one thing to be highly critical of Israel, be against the policies regarding Gaza since 2007. A lot of us are. When Hamas violently wrestled control away from the Palestinian Authority, be against settler violence in the West Bank, dislike the lack of peace in the region, and be concerned about Palestinian rights and the well-being of innocent civilians. That is not anti-Semitism. I want to be very clear about that. Here in the US, we are critical about what our own country is doing at times. It is quite another thing, though, to outright say that Israel has no right to exist. That is anti-Semitism. Israel is the only Jewish state. Saying that Israel has no right to exist is the same thing as saying that the Jewish people do not have a right to a homeland. Moreover, just to mention, 25% of the Israeli population are Arab Muslim and have the same rights as the Jews in Israel. Moreover, I have one child left at Evergreen, and he is a preschooler with an IEP. I hope he never needs this teacher's services. If he should need these teacher services, I don't want her anywhere near him. He has a Jewish first name, and I don't want her anywhere close to him. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Denning, Scotch Plains. On October 7th, terrorists from Hamas, not Palestinians, not Muslims, but Hamas terrorists, fired thousands of rockets from the territory under their control into Israel, targeting and killing civilians. They crossed from the Gaza Strip and attacked Israeli civilians and acted on orders to commit atrocities against civilians, including women and children. They abducted civilians, and they are still held captive, some of them. This slaughter was proportionally 15 times worse than the United States 9/11. Upon returning to Gaza, they held their own people captive with the goal of maximizing their casualties among their own innocent civilian population, augmenting this slaughter. Yet strangely, these events have touched off a wave of anti-Israel protests and anti-Semitism around the world, including in the walls of our own schools. How does this come about? The stated reason by many is that they view the Jews as the oppressor class and the Palestinians as the victim class. Thus, they believe that actions against all Jews are justified, even thousands of miles away, to people unrelated to the conflict, because their guilt is the product of their race and their religion. If this sounds dangerous, it is. If it sounds familiar in this room, you would also be correct. This is the core of the critical race theory that the district imported when they hired Dr. Joshi, lest we forget her denial of the humanity of millions of Georgians. And when Dr. Mass parroted her by declaring a man's banned behavior was an expression of his race and religion without ever meeting him or knowing if the story was true. I share this example to show how easily it can happen to the best of us and how this policy feeds division. This district is again importing this idea of division into oppressor and victim in the form of a book club where the administration deliberately picked a book and an author that share this philosophy. I will use the book's original title, The Scar of David, a direct attack upon the Jewish people and the symbol of their religion. This would not be tolerated for anyone else. It shows the author's true intent.
This is in contrast to the district's portrayal of this book as delving into universal themes of shared humanity and love. You need only look at the author's Facebook page to see their true feelings, feelings that the district wants to hide. She says terrible things, even going so far as to call the Houthis attacks on international shipping, including U.S. ships, as a legitimate and moral form of protest of what's going on. To be clear, anti-Semitism, anti-Christianity, anti-Muslim, and anti-any other group positions are poison. This poison is manufactured from critical race theory. It does not build peace or understanding. As a parent, I know you don't feed your children poison. You don't take the poison and sugarcoat it. You don't take the poison and dilute it. You keep it out of your house, and you keep its ingredients out of your house. So I ask each board member individually, will you part company with this dangerous guilt by association identity dogma? And will you part company with this author? Under the rules established and voted on by 8 of you, this board is required to respond to questions that are asked at this public meeting. So I eagerly wait your reply, and I'm sure the public does. And if you would like, I can read you the portion of the policy.
Mr. Denning, your time, are you finished with your comments, sir?
Well, I'm wondering if the board is going to meet their obligations under their policy. Would you like me to read it?
Sir, I explicitly addressed this before public comment. The board will not be responding to questions. This is not a question and answer. You've made your statement.
May I read the policy to you?
No, sir, your time has already expired. Thank you.
Well, I'll come back later and read it.
Doug, how much time we have?
Hi, my name is Dina Ibrahim. I live in Scotch Plains. I want to start by thanking Dr. Mess for acknowledging Gaza today. As a child, I grew up in Scotch Plains. I came here when I was 9 years old. I spoke 0 English, and ever since, I went to all the schools here, graduated from the high school, and Scotch Plains been my home ever since. When I grew up and became a mom, I brought my 2 girls to live here because that's what I wanted them to grow up, to have a great experience as I did as a child growing up here. But today I'm disappointed because with a Middle Eastern background, I feel our voices are not being heard. With the email sent previously regarding the event that took place on October 7th, you only supported the Jewish community, which is appreciated. But not once have you mentioned Gaza and the children that die there every single day. Also canceling the special professional development, and tying it with the event that took place in the middle school had nothing to do with Palestine. We want to know why you reached out to the Jewish community regarding the book. If you had a problem with the author, why did we not choose a different author instead? Does religion have to do anything with learning about Palestine? We ask you, Dr. Mess, to send a statement addressing how, in the previous emails, you only chose to be on one-sided. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug, more time or not?
We're at 15 minutes, yes, sir.
So there's another public portion coming up towards the end of the meeting. Unless you want to do one more? We can keep it open. You can come up. We'll keep it open.
Good evening, Mr. Jones, Dr. Mass, and the members of the Board of Education. We are here to share our concerns about the
I'm sorry,
current-
just your name and
Anim
the-
Villar, Scott Plains.
Thank
And I knew that. I had it, so you knew the town you live in. We are here to share our concerns about the current structure of the JV ice hockey program. On our Scotch Plains Fanwood High School website, under athletics, there is a junior varsity freshman philosophy published for the benefit of parents and athletes. Ingrained in it various messages about the philosophy of sports at this level. The philosophy leads with the following sentence: sub-varsity athletics are an integral part of the success of the varsity program. I will stop there and say that myself, along with many other hockey parents, couldn't agree more. To the Board of Education members, an email was sent on December 19th to the attention of Mr. Miller, Mr. Jones, and Dr. Mast on behalf of hockey families, signed by 15 of those families. The email requests the following considerations to be included in the budget for the 24-25 school year: a dedicated JV hockey coach to instruct and lead these athletes at a more age-appropriate level for their safety and refinement, a more robust season of more than 3 or 4 games to allow the team to work together, build cohesion, and take themselves to the next level. As we are to understand, this current school year's budget saw a reduction of the JV hockey program. Our understanding that aside from competing in priorities, one driver was the low numbers in this sport. This will not be the scenario for the upcoming future. Ready to walk on the program next year is at least 10 seasoned freshman hockey athletes that on average have been playing for at least 6 years. They are ready to call themselves Raiders. We are asking for you to receive them as Raiders, appropriate for their level. On the current varsity team, there is one graduating senior. Depending on who earns the spots on varsity next year, the majority of these incoming students will compete on the JV team for the district. They are ready and excited to compete as Raiders. They need a dedicated coach to work with them and build the cohesion of a team that will be ready to fill future varsity spots. But they need a dedicated coach to bring them to the varsity level safely. Safety in hockey, as in any sport, is important. New Jersey high school hockey is one of the most physical sports, rivaling that of tackle football. The speed is faster and the surface played on is smaller with a less forgiving surrounding. This is a collision sport. Many of the participants will be introduced to the more physical side of hockey. For many, hitting is relatively new. It would be irresponsible for us as an institution of learning to put our younger and physically less developed student body on the ice without proper instruction on how to deliver and take a hit. With the unavoidable size differences between a 14-year-old and an 18-year-old, the results could be devastating and cause long-term effects for both parties of the play. Because our district has had historically low numbers of athletes playing ice hockey, our district has had to put those students on the bench at the varsity level. A robust JV program that has a dedicated coach in a competitive season will allow athletes newer to the sport to participate safely and learn not only the sport, but how to read the ice and prepare to protect themselves. We believe a JV coach can take the time to properly identify areas of correction and safety, instruct the players on how to avoid high-speed collisions, and what to do in those situations. A varsity coach does not have the time to lead their varsity team and instruct new athletes on how to play. A JV coach can teach, protect, and advance these athletes to the next level. Even Mr. Miller stressed the importance of age-appropriate competition and the physical stature of athletes between 18 and 14 when he spoke with the 8th grade parents at the high school on January 17th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Murphy from Scotch Plains, I'm going to pick up where she left off. Additionally, given the expense the players are responsible to cover, this year the cost of ice time per player was $890. The players deserve the individual attention a JV coach would provide and a greater number of competitive games to play. So you know, $890 got you practice and 4 games. Excuse me. Hockey is supposed to be a fun activity after all. We need to develop a focused JV program. The varsity coaches are already pulled in too many directions. We need to focus on the younger athletes. It is no surprise that high school athletics are under attack from club programs and private school recruitment. It is our fear that if we do not have a JV coach in place, this will exacerbate the issue and cause even more students to not participate in our high school program, pushing them further out of our community. We still have the time to prepare for next year, and we urge you to add the JV coaching position to the program. Ladies and gentlemen, these athletes do not have a Friday night lights. They do not have the benefit of students leaving school en masse and going to their field to watch the game after school. In fact, their ice time typically starts at 8:30 or 9 p.m. on school nights. But they do deserve as much attention as our other athletes. Let them be proud to be a Raider at the JV level. Let them know their spot that is seen as a niche sport matters. Give them a dedicated coach and an increased program with more games to allow them to grow into the competitive team that their talent allows. Again, the junior varsity freshman philosophy posted on the athletic website states, teams that have a sub-varsity level are encouraged to create situations that allow for all the students to have game experience throughout the season. Again, we completely agree. These athletes need to play competitive at their level in order to build up their talent so that the varsity coach can receive a seasoned, cohesive group. Members of the Board of Education, we the hockey families of Scotch Plains Fanwood are asking that you vote to pass the 24-25 school year budget that comes before you and ensure that there's a line item for athletics to reinstate the JV coach and the enhancement of more robust season. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the first public portion. There is another one towards the end of the meeting. Moving on to additional reports, letters to the board. 8 emails were received by the public and were sent to the appropriate administrator. And now we're going to move to committee reports. Anybody have committee reports? Ms. Williams?
Thank you.
The Wellness and Equity Committee met on Monday at 6 p.m. And as Dr. Mast stated, we are reviewing framework for making the district a better place where we all belong, and we're reviewing the calendar. And just to reiterate what she said, there's a shared commitment for an open dialogue in a collaborative manner that fosters a sense of belonging, and the committee is passionate and committed to working on that. We had a nice discussion, came up with a lot of ideas, and our next meeting is February 8th, 2024. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Any questions for Ms. Williams? Other committee reports? Ms. Siriani?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murray. The Curriculum Committee met on January 16th. We discussed 4 items. The first was YouTube on student devices. Dr. Dumaresque from Nettingham came to speak on behalf of elementary and middle school administrators, that the administrators requested that students not have complete access to YouTube on their student devices, and cited research that we've discussed before, that kids having access to social media in younger and younger grades, research bears out the negative impact of that. And so right now, there are social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and others are restricted on school devices. Sometimes YouTube is used for instruction, but YouTube will now be banned from student devices. However, teachers will still be able to embed instructional videos and educational things in a different way so that students won't have unfettered access to the YouTube app. And I believe parents, staff was made aware of that, and parents, the community will be getting a letter so that they will be notified of that, I believe, tomorrow. Okay. The second thing we discussed was Governor Murphy's new resolution designating January as Muslim Heritage Month in New Jersey, and talking about that the legislature in New Jersey has a commitment to recognizing the importance of many religious and cultural traditions. And so the Social Studies Department has created curriculum connections that aim to connect this initiative to course proficiencies at various levels, and developed essential questions from units of study for each grade that instructors can access, offering different lessons that can be taught during Muslim Heritage Month. Some connections are more direct than others, but they're trying to connect these lessons to big ideas and concepts that students have already learned or will be learning more about throughout the year, not just in January. Some curricular connections include music, art, inventions, and cultural contributions from the Muslim community for teachers to review with students. The committee also discussed Holocaust studies and integrating it into middle school courses. That is another mandate from the legislature, and the Social Studies Department is examining where the Holocaust is taught currently in the curriculum and how to expand it into other grades throughout the middle school. And again, to tie into discussions on human rights in its European and global units. Study will include also looking at various symbols and tying it into discussions on hate speech and religious persecution throughout history. And the last thing that we discussed, we've been discussing over the period of months, that the high impact tutoring competitive grant. Dr. McGarry updated us that over 75 staff members have offered to serve as tutors. This is a grant that was awarded to Scotch Plains Fanwood, and it was initially for, it's supposed to be for grades 3 and 4, the grant was put out there for, but we're gonna be able to utilize the grant funds for grades 3 and 4 in English language arts and math, and then I think also grades 5 through 8 as well. And we are going to use the second MAP test in the winter to determine which students will receive supplementary tutoring, and again, looking at other data to help us identify students who might be vulnerable and could benefit from tutoring through that grant. And our next meeting is February 13th. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Siriani. Any questions for Ms. Siriani? Okay, other committee reports? Ms. Brody?
I have a Finance Committee report. We met on January 16th. Some of this is a duplicate of what Mr. Jones have said, but we did a referendum update. We discussed the long-range facilities plan. It's a 5-year major amendment. We received a complete list of the projects identified through questionnaires, architect findings, grounds and building department, and building principal requests. Some of these projects will be funded with the bond referendum and some with the capital reserve. We reviewed an aerial level draft concept for 330 South Avenue. We reviewed at high level the overall cost of the purchase, renovation, and expansion of 330 South Avenue. There are still a few studies to complete, such as water, sewer, and traffic, before the final figures can be formulated. We reviewed the timeline review, planned September 2024 vote with March 2024 final plan submitted to the state. The state then has 90 days to review. We had an initial budget discussion, enrollment, healthcare, transportation, technology costs. We discussed those costs. Healthcare expected to increase 20%, looking to decrease that with some negotiating. Transportation currently on budget, but we may need to add a bus route due to increasing enrollment and looking to hire a bus driver. And the ESSER funding is going to expire. We were going to have an audit report tonight, but it's getting postponed to next month. And so we can talk about that at that time. We discussed the resolutions that are on the agenda tonight, the referendum items, the capital reserve, the free and reduced lunch balance forgiveness. That has to do with there's open balances for students that put in their free and reduced lunch paperwork late, so we have to forgive those balances. So that's what that's about: asbestos remediation, civil settlement agreement, and the HR consultant. And our next meeting is February 12th.
Thank you, Ms. Brody. Any questions for Ms. Brody? Any other committee reports? Okay. Thank you all. Enrollment report, Mr. Jones already commented on that earlier, and we'll move over to superintendent motions.
Number one is, I'm asking the board to approve out-of-district placements. 2, I'm asking the board to approve the field trip requests. 3, for the board to approve the 7 HIP cases discussed on December 21st. And 4, I ask the board to approve the memorandum of agreement between the district and law enforcement officials. And 5, I'm asking the board to approve the revised calendar for this school year, which is really asking how we are using any emergency days if we don't need them all for snow. The College Board published their testing calendar after we published our calendar, and there was a conflict with makeup days for AP testing. So we just adjusted that. On the calendar, we would have off the Tuesday of Memorial Day weekend should we have any excess emergency days, rather than the Friday before, because that Friday before is a makeup day. So. And
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Bauer, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Winkler, any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to personnel.
I'm asking the board to approve the superintendent's recommendations for personnel that we discussed in exec this evening.
So moved.
Ms. Boroff, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Brody, any comments or questions? Okay, Mr. Jones, please call the roll.
Ms. Barve?
Here.
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Mrs. Boroff?
Here.
Ms. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Siriani?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes. Motion carries. On to board business. Mr. Jones, your items?
Yep. So 1 and 2 will push to February. Auditor was not able to make it tonight. Staff training is number 3. Number 4, related service special ed students. Number 5 is to help us in our search for a high school principal. Number 6 is what Ms. Brody talked about, free and reduced lunch, balance forgiveness. Number 7, library book disposal. Number 8 is some remediation of some known asbestos in a custodial closet. Number 9, reading recovery training program. 10, civil settlement agreement, talked about in executive session. Same with number 11, special ed settlement agreements, discussed in executive session. Number 12 is approving our vendor for our bus repairs. And this is on here because our buses are reaching midlife, and we really haven't had many repairs over the past few years, and so they're starting to ramp up now in terms of repairs. And so at the end of last year and then again this year, we've seen some need for repairs that have started to pop up, and we expect it to continue. 13 is technical accounting. So we approved this capital reserve release in the last fiscal year. So we need to approve it again because it wasn't spent at the end of the last fiscal year. We need to reapprove it this year. But it was previously approved, no additional money or anything like that. 14 I discussed, that's the long-range facility plan. 15 is the option to purchase real estate agreement I discussed. 16, due diligence for that building I discussed. 17 is approving the project submissions for the referendum paperwork, which I previously discussed. 18 is additional due diligence, including the traffic study. And then 19, fire and security drills, sort of standard reports. 19, 20, 21, 22 are standard reports every month. 20 is financial reports. 21 is disbursements. And 22 is our payment of bills. That's it.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Jones on any of the items that we went through? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the December 21, 2023 public board meeting minutes as well as the January 4th annual organization minutes?
So moved.
Ms. Winkler, do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Boroff, the Amy's. Very nice. Do we have any comments or questions on those minutes? Seeing none, all those approved? Sorry, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New board business. Do we have any new board business? No new board business. Liaison reports. Ms. Bauer.
I just wanted to mention that the Garden State Coalition of Schools met last week. We had a very interesting presentation on AI. I think we all learned a lot and realized we had a lot more to learn, but it was excellent. And as usual, there were also reports on various bills. Many were passed during the lame duck, and one that I'm sure the board has seen in their emails is related to the new requirement that high school seniors have to sign off, or their parents sign off on submitting the FAFSA in order to graduate. So I'm sure there'll be information coming out about that process and how that's happening here in Scotch Plains. So it's another top-down requirement that's probably unnecessary, but well meant.
Is it a graduation requirement that's non-instructional, right?
Yes, yes. Has nothing to do with their performance and studies. So that's the unfortunate part. Anyway, it was a good meeting, and our next meeting is the middle of March.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Bauer? Ms. Boroff, CPAG?
I got a CPAG update. So CPAG kicked off 2024 with their first meeting on January 8th. And we had, Dr. Rabin, correct me if I'm missing anything out here, but it was a really good discussion, sort of just establishing what's going on in the various schools in the district. We went over some of the training that takes place over the summer with our staff as it relates to special services, specifically as it relates to dyslexia training, some programs, Walk a Day in My Shoes. So really, the point of CPAG, again, is for parents of children who have an IEP or 504K to help provide information and share with each other. So this meeting was really about sharing resources. It was brought up, and I have been myself very impressed with, but someone did mention how our teachers have become so creative with their spaces in the schools, but mostly the appreciation for the flexible seating that we have. So that was an interesting thing. I know the Department of Special Services is, as well as CPAG representation, trying to be present at orientations, at transitioning events for high school orientations in the summer. So again, anyway, the next meeting is in this room on the first Monday. I think it's the 7th, but I will it's the first Monday of the month.
The 5th.
The 5th, thank you. That's it. That's my update.
Thank you, Ms. Boroff. Any other reports? None. Workshops? Workshop reports?
Not a workshop report, but I just wanted, we're supposed to request, and I think the leadership conference request that Ms. Winkler and I made was included in the staff portion that we reported earlier, so just so people know.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay, we have two resolutions, one for the month of January, which is School Board Recognition Month, and one for Black History Month, which is February. Anybody want to move the two resolutions?
So moved.
Ms. Suriani, Ms. Winkler seconded. Do we have any comments or questions on these two resolutions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in our second public comment section. In accordance with Scotch Plains Family Public School Bylaws 0164 and 0165, the meetings will be open for 15 minutes for public comment, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business function, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other items. Speakers, please state your full name and the town in which you reside. Please note, boards use the public comment period as an opportunity to listen to citizen concerns, but not to debate issues or enter into question and answer session or a cross-examination between the public and the individual members. Be aware that not all issues brought before the board will be resolved that evening. Boards may respond to public comment by seeking additional information or by delegating the authority to investigate the issue to the superintendent or his or her designee. So I will now open up the second and final public comment section for 15 minutes. So if you have a comment, please come up, state your name and the town in which you reside.
Hello, how are you guys? Good. Thank you, Dr. Mass. Thank you, board members. Sorry for my English. English is my second language. We are a family that came as refugees.
I'm sorry, just state your name, please, and the
Sorry, I
town.
apologize, sorry.
No problem.
Safe and Nasri, Scotch Plains.
Thank you.
And also, if you could speak in the mic a little bit for all the people being in public comics.
All right.
Some people were live. Yeah, lift it up.
Sorry.
People who were watching live couldn't hear some of the public comments.
Thank you.
Yep.
Again, thank you, Dr. Mass. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Dr. Mass, for your powerful statement. This is exactly what we're looking for from, what we're trying to accomplish here is these kind of statements. Again, we came to this country as refugees from Iraq 15 years ago, escaping the war. And this country quickly became our home for myself, my wife, and my kids. We are raising our kids here in this town that welcomed us with open arms. I just have two comments, please. Again, as other members of the community stated, that we are a little disappointed that we haven't had any communication regarding what is happening in Gaza, despite the magnitude of the humanitarian crisis and immense number of innocent lives lost. We all live in this community, and it would be the right thing for our kids to learn about each other and the difficulties that we are all facing. The other point I have is we would like the school to reconsider the decision regarding the PD. Are we now banning books in public schools that adults were interested in reading just because some local religious leaders consider them controversial? These are my notes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Morris, Anwood. I wanted to bring another library book to your attention. It's called Oryx and Crake, a novel by Margaret Atwood. The following description of this book is actually on the Library Link website. So this is on our website. Jimmy, perhaps the last living human unaltered by science, struggles for survival in a post-apocalyptic world as he tries to make sense of how everything went wrong. Mourning the loss of his beloved Oryx, a girl he met through a kiddie porn website. And that's in our school, kiddie porn. On another site, this was the description. The two friends first encountered Oryx on the net. She was the 8-year-old star of a pedophilic film on a site called Hot Tots. Now, again, I think, we're talking about banning books and things like this. This is not banning books. This is just keeping things appropriate for kids. If you want to have a professional development, maybe read this book and have the teachers determine, is this proper reading material for the kids in the school? So now I have some really good news. The Fanwood Library, the public library, has now become a book sanctuary. So you can send an adult book that's for adults, send it over to the library, put it in the adult section. Now parents have control over what their kids can see. Simple thing to do when it comes to a controversial book like that. And like I said, it's clearly an adult book. When it comes to this the issue with this professional development book, again, I think we got to be more proactive in what books we put in the library, what books we're deciding to use for professional development. We actually have resources here you could access for maybe a more appropriate book that maybe bring a message that they would appreciate that's not as controversial an author. And I know somebody said about artists, like, well, you got to separate the art from the artist. Well, that's kind of true. But when you get right down to it, if it was a book about trees and flowers, but the controversial statements she makes are directly related to what's in the book, and so that's where you lose the trust when you see public controversial statements like that. That's where you lose it, I could be completely wrong, and the book might be great, but I won't read that book, and I don't want my tax money going for a book where somebody's making those kind of statements. And speaking of separating art from an artist, look at Hunter Biden. How is his art sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars? You can't separate the art all the time from the artist. It probably should be like 10, 15 bucks. It's finger painting.
Thank you, Mr. Morris.
John Denning, Scotch Plains. I am used to the policies of this district being ignored. The frequencies which they were ignored when I asked for them to be enforced to protect my children is the leading cause of why my children are no longer attending schools in this district, because I felt so unsafe with them here. This is the policy that I was referencing before. All, not some, all statements, questions, inquiries shall be directed to the presiding officer, Mr. Murray. and any questions, inquiries directed by a participant to another board member shall be redirected to the presiding officer, who shall determine if such question or inquiry shall be addressed by the presiding officer or on behalf of the board by the individual board member. This is your policy. There is nowhere in this that it allows you to simply ignore questions brought to you by the public. The words any and all, they teach you not to put those in legal documents. 8 of you voted for this, 2019. You have a hard job. It takes courage. You guys were elected. You should have the courage to stand up in this meeting and say, it is inappropriate to bring a book in here that was entitled The Scar of David. We can see its intent. We can find a better book that highlights the plight of the Palestinian people without creating division. And you should have the courage to tell your superintendent and assistant superintendent that they need to do their job better. That's your job, is to make our schools better and safer. And I beg of you to have the courage to say that tonight. So again, I ask, is it appropriate to bring this book and these ideas and this author into the district? Or can we do better? That is my question to the board. As per this policy, you're supposed to respond.
As the presiding officer, I'm choosing that we're not addressing. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you for your courage.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I will close this portion. We will move on to upcoming meetings. We have our regular meeting February 22nd, 8 p.m. in this building, and Thursday, March 21st is the following meeting on 8 p.m. in this building. I'll now move to the good of the order. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order?
I'd like to congratulate the PTA. Sue, I know that I was blown away by Super Saturday, Super Sports Saturday. We had the family out. I saw so many faces, the students, the youth. It was perfect. I hope that you are all extremely proud of yourselves and the work that you did. And thank you for that.
The high school had their Pops concert last night, and it was really wonderful just watching all the bands perform. I watched it online, or watched clips of it too, but it was really good. So whatever I saw live was good too.
Any other for the good of the order?
Yes.
Sure.
Want to mention that we recently had our Martin Luther King Day of Service, which went really, really well. It was a wonderful community event. I want to thank Stephanie because she was on the planning committee for that. Of course, I thank all the people on the planning committee, but you happen to be the one who's here. I also want to congratulate Dr. Mast as she won the Martin Luther King Day of Service Award this year. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Anyone? Ms. Bauer.
I wanted to recognize one of our teachers, Ryan McKenna, who was chosen for a summer Fulbright trip to South Korea this coming summer. He'll be a Fulbright scholar, along with some other teachers from New Jersey, and he's the one who recently hosted the and helped plan the exchange with a South Korean school that took place in the fall, and he is during the course of the 3 weeks that he'll be in South Korea, it happens they will be visiting that school, so that's very exciting. So proud of him.
Any other good of the order?
Oh, and guys, be careful out there at drop-off.
I'm actually interested in hearing more about Barcelona at some point, so maybe we'll have to have a follow-up session on that, because it sounded like it was a good trip. Anyone else? Good of the order? No? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Winkler?
Second.
Ms. Williams? Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.